So I think I'll take the time now. To do some thinking and maybe watch some videos. Sometimes you need, just to relax and think about stuff and not rush to action. I think it's important, to process like the thing that you see and we didn't like we didn't like we couldn't like learn a lot about this tanker yellow jacket because we couldn't see. I didn't want to catch like the second living one, even though it's relatively easy to catch them because as I said, they fly relatively slow and I don't know like how to have any kind of like to do any research on the body like the dead one, because the microscope does not fit like this kind of microscope that doesn't fit like this kind of creature, and I don't have anything else. But so I'll take some time to think like what's next, and maybe I'll postpone my sandwich for tomorrow. And for now, we'll just, it's maybe just a regular sandwich. There is a question of, that we already, we had in the past with regards to the other insects. I understand that not all of you actually have seen, like, the video with the other insects. So it's, I don't know, like, what can, like, ask Disney Plus. What can I do like so for you to actually be able to watch a video where I we see the other insect? Maybe just watch it again, like or change the name of the title. I don't know what makes it like appear in like your I don't know what it's because it's one of the it's one of the one of my videos like. Just a second, maybe we can actually search for it just now. So there was, in one of the the crucible samples that were taken, just I think while it was all still burning, or maybe just after it stopped burning, but from very hot matter in the crucible, we've taken like sample that contained a very interesting slide that contained something like four. This is amazing shot. This one, like you see with the dragon. I really like that shot. This is so nice. So we were able to take several, a sample that contained four insects actually, or three insects that were very interesting. But they were created by the Neros in the scale, not as eggs, but as like the complete things. But they did not. It did not like not complete like it's not like in the very like a complete shape. Maybe if, with more time it could have been completed, and this was very interesting because yeah, here it's called microscopy insect created in the burning crucible, and it's very interesting actually. Just from about a fire crucible, but much of so it will save you a lot of valuable CPU time and even more valuable. No, not orbital mechanics. This one, yes. Okay, so this will be a microscopic examination of 3 slides. So you don't have access to it? I don't know, because it's very interesting actually. You see a very bony insects here. I hope you can have like access to it, because it's very interesting video where you see very bony, very bony insects, like with very interesting shape. And they are quite, I mean, they are not done, like they are not like completed, but they are in very close to complete like state. And you can actually see the neros, like I mean, on top of these bugs, like I mean, you know, just I mean, working on them. This is from 4 weeks ago, like from a month ago.
I mean, obviously they are not like, I mean, prepared. Like it's not going to like. But
you see very intricate bones and
instead, like I mean,
also pretty big. Anyway, I mean, just I mean, get access to this video because it's a very interesting one. It's from 4 weeks ago. Microscopy insect created in the burning crucible. And these were also pretty big and not microscopic, but not as I mean nearly as big as like the metal yellow jacket. And so I mean the question that arises then and also is rising now. I mean, what is this thing? I mean, is this? I mean, okay. So it's manifestly. Even more so for these guys, it was manifestly true that they are not clones of Earth insects. I mean, of course, they are not clones because I mean they were created literally inside a burning oil. Like, so I mean, so yeah, I mean they have like they are demonic, they are like fire resistant, but they are not like I mean you know like I mean fire resistant variants of Earth insects because I mean the bone structure is different than things that you can find in Earth. It's different bone structure. So there was a question if whether I mean it's something that is engineered by the Neos, or that they know it from another planet. And of course, I mean, it might not be like mutually exclusive. I mean, it might not be mutually exclusive, but because maybe they were engineered by the Neos in another planet. But I mean, my hypothesis then was that most certainly they are life forms that belong to another planet. Maybe engineered by the Neros, I don't know, but I mean, that they belong to another planet. And that the Neros know them because they are like the Borg, like the Star Trek Borg, that they are like encyclopedia of life forms from all sorts of planets. And now the same question, we're facing the same question with regards to the metal yellow jacket, and my answer is the same actually. And actually now I even like, I would say more reasons to or more further evidence. Like I mean, again I should say that this yellow jacket is, it's actually it's physically, I mean visually it's similar to wasps and hornets more than actually these things that we've seen in this video. I mean, these were really aliens, like this stuff here, like I mean, again, they were not completed and they were not alive, but I mean, they were, I mean, completed enough to know that they are completely alien, like, that there are no such insects in Earth. And visually it's not the same for the yellow metal hornet, because there are like hornets and wasps that look similar to it, but so I mean, and because I'm not like a biologist and I don't like have like you know background with insects, I wasn't even sure it's not like I mean it was actually created in the crucible, like, and it's not maybe just you know an Earth insect that I'm kind of like new to me. I mean I suspected that it is. I mean that's why I called him, like I mean. And inspected the guy, because I suspected that he was created in the crucible, because I have something was very, I mean it was very, I tried to kill it, and I mean it always like came out of the trash, like I mean kind of like I mean it was like like the Terminator, like in the first Terminator movie, that you know that I mean it's crushed again and again by the, you know, this kind of like a machine and still crawling. You remember the Terminator, the first Terminator movie? Pretty good movie actually. So it was like that. So I suspected that it's actually like, I mean, not an Earth insect, but something that was created in the crucible. But after it died, it was drowned unintentionally. I mean, I actually inspected it, like, I mean, actually touched it, and then and immediately I understood, okay, this is nothing at all like Earth insect, because it's incredibly more, not just a little bit, but I mean it's like incredibly more durable than like Earth insect. Like, I mean, much more durable. Incredibly more durable. I mean, without any, there cannot be no mistake that this is not an Earth bug. And so again, there is the question of like, so is it engineered by the Neros, or does it belong to another planet? And again, I would say that to me, it's kind of obvious that like these ones, the yellow wasp also belong to another planet. And why do you think along these lines? I mean, what makes me think? So, I mean, even more than in these like, I mean, for these creatures, I mean, the notion of them being belong to another planet is the fact that, I mean, their morphology is very different than, I mean, Earth insects. And you could, I mean, and if the Neos would have, like, I mean, invented them or engineered them here, like, for Earth, it's kind of like, I mean, it doesn't make much sense to engineer, like, a completely different bone structure and morphology than what's already exists here. I would say, even though it's not like a bulletproof, like, I mean, it's not a full, like a very rigorous proof, but for the yellow jacket, actually, like the metal yellow jacket, I would suggest, and of course I would gladly get any comments, because I mean, I'm not a biologist, so if, I mean, if any like people with, you know, background in biology, I mean, they listen, so I mean, I would gladly get any comments on the matter, scientific comments. So I would suggest that even though by its morphology, it's similar to Earth insects, something about it doesn't really make sense. I mean, it's kind of like a fish out of the water, because it's much more durable than Earth insects, like incredibly more durable, not just a little bit, but incredibly more durable. Like, I mean, much more durable. Like, I mean, it's nothing even. It's not even like, I mean, it just looks like wasps and hornets, but I mean, like, I mean, regular like insect, whether like flies or insect or hornets. I mean, anything like that. I mean, when you kill it, I mean, you need to be like very cautious. I mean, not to make like, I mean, you know, to make like to completely squash it. Like, I mean, you know, to you know, to like a porridge of like of meat and like juice. If you want to actually examine it under the microscope, from experience, I can tell you that it's incredibly easy. Like, I mean, to just by mistake, I mean, completely ruin, like, I mean, the Earth flies, like, I mean, because they are very delicate, and if you are not used to, like, I mean, if you are not used to like to laboratory work, I mean, insects, I mean, just, I mean, they break in your hands many times, or even if you use utensils, they very easily break. And this guy, I mean, you cannot cut it even like only the wings were separated. I mean, and also after some, like, I mean, you needed, like, I mean, I needed to apply force, I mean, to separate the wings, like, which is not like regular wings that, I mean, are separated many times just by themselves. And everything else beside the wings, I mean, I couldn't, like, it's still, I mean, in the original like form. I mean, I couldn't like separate it even, like, I mean, with the Japanese knife. I mean, so it's not just a little bit more durable; it's incredibly more durable than Earth insects that looks the same. And I would suggest that, I mean, this doesn't give it like much. I mean, yeah, I recently, in the last couple of days, I hint very strongly at the fact that this is kind of like the agent of the apocalypse, and that you should all be very afraid, because, I mean, presumably they are multiplying and swarming all over Tel Aviv and Israel, and they are going to take over the world. And maybe it's true, like, maybe it's true, and I mean, it's a possibility that, I mean, you should think about, like, I mean, when you decide to keep torturing me and separate me from my daughters and keep me poor and torment me by, I mean, all sorts of goons that are paid by the government. So, I mean, it's not a completely empty threat. There is some kind of, like, I mean, yes, it's some you should be worried about these yellow things. But I mean, if you want to be like completely honest, like I mean, and like truth is very important to me. I would say that it's not a perfect, like I mean, agent of the apocalypse. Like I mean, it's certainly it's got like I mean a huge potential to create havoc on Earth, but it's got like you can already say that it's got like I mean serious drawbacks or disadvantages, and I cannot say because I mean I'm not a scientist, but even if I were, I mean I'm not sure it's easy to predict. I mean if these kind of like disadvantages would be like I mean strong enough in order for it to actually not be able to find its ecological niche in Earth. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be able to survive it all in Earth, and maybe it was going to kill all other like insects. I mean, and although of course, I mean, destroy like all the other like ecological niches that I mean related to these insects, which means pretty much everything. So I mean, it's either I mean, both options I think are plausible. Both that I mean, it wouldn't be able to live at all in Earth, and or that it will actually going to, I mean, to take control over the Earth. I mean, both are plausible. But what's pretty, I mean, even without much background in biology, or almost none, I mean, as I was beginning to say, it's clear to me that this insect belongs to another planet, because it's not really like if I would have wanted like to create like an insect that is kind of like I mean extremely powerful and kind of like I mean a super insect that is made out of metal, like in Earth, and that will be kind of like I mean the agent of the apocalypse, as they say. I wouldn't design it that way. Actually, it's not a perfect design for such a purpose, because it's too heavily armored. Even if its armor was like I mean considerably less thick, I mean even if it was made of I mean a much thinner and weaker metal, it still would have been incredibly more durable than any other insect in Earth. So this is like an overkill. It's kind of like I mean I would suggest that it was engineered or evolved in a planet where either like I mean maybe the conditions, I mean the conditions are very different, like I mean maybe the atmospheric pressure or temperature are very different, or another option is that there are like serious predators, I mean that are much like more aggressive than the ones that can be found on Earth, that I mean that require this kind of armor, because this heavy armor is not needed in Earth, and we have already seen that it's a limitation because it's pretty easily. I mean, we only have one, but I mean this one found its death by drowning. So I mean, it couldn't even like I mean get itself out of like I mean very shallow water, because I mean it was so heavy. So I mean, and the wings are not. I mean, are still. The wings still, I mean, even though of course they are made of metal, they are also made of metal, but they need to be delicate, because I mean they are wings. They cannot be like wings should be somehow, I mean, should be delicate. I mean because they need to like flip very, I mean very, I mean in a very high frequency. I mean for the thing to move, and even I mean and I said it doesn't move very very quickly. So we have, I mean, only even the first one we've seen, actually, it was demonstrated that this heavy armor is actually, I mean, it's arguably it caused its death, because I think, I mean, that because I didn't drone it like I mean, intentionally. It was just, I mean, it was in a terrarium, and in that, and in the bottom of the terrarium there was, I mean, a little bit of liquid, but this kind of liquid was enough for it, I mean, to be submerged in it, and the wings, I mean, were not, I mean, and because it was so heavy, I mean, it couldn't like get itself out. And my assumption that, I mean, a more delicate insect, like presumably any kind of like hornet or wasp that you can find in Earth, would have had no problem. Like I mean, just I mean, throw the water, a little bit of water or the liquid like outside. I mean, just I mean, throw it out of like and get out. Like I mean, but this one drone, because it's so heavy, and also as I said, I mean, it's manifestly. I mean, it flies slowly. I mean, there are maybe. I mean, it's not unique among like I mean, compared to Earth insects. I mean, I've seen insects in Earth that also move slowly. Maybe it's not the slowest on Earth, okay? And I mean, so yes, slow flyers have their like I mean their niche in Earth as well. It's not like, I mean, the fact that it flies slowly doesn't mean that it's not viable in Earth. But I mean, again, if I would have wanted like to engineer like the Agent of the Apocalypse, I would made it much. I would made it armor much lighter, and made it like much more quicker. Like I mean, and the wings like I mean so much longer. I mean, and so it wouldn't be that I mean vulnerable to drowning in liquid, and also that it will be much quicker because the fact that it's slow. I mean, obviously, I mean, if it would have been like 2 times like faster or 3 times faster, it would have been much more. I mean, much more fearsome predator. And again, even like I mean, if its armor was like I mean 1/5, I mean 5 times weaker or 5 times thinner than what it is, it's even in this configuration, it would have been much more heavily armored than anything you can, like any other insect on Earth, for certain. This one is it's like a flying tank. It's an overkill. It's too heavily armored for, and you don't need this. I mean, I don't understand. Again, I'm not a biologist, but I cannot understand. I mean, what's the advantage in Earth for an insect to be that heavily armored? I mean, I would suggest that this has advantages only if like the conditions are very different, like I mean temperature and pressure, and if the predators are much like more aggressive. I mean, like the natural predators are, have like teeth like like lizards, but I mean small lizards, but to teeth like that can, of course, also metallic and like incredibly strong. Like I mean, because otherwise, why do you need it to be that heavily armored? So I mean, all of that I mean hints me that this is actually is not kind of like I mean an engineered life form that I mean was engineered in order to annihilate the Earth, even though it might do it anyway. I don't know, but I mean it makes much more sense that this is actually, and it's also true to the ones that we've seen here, but for different reasons, that it's something that the Neros know from another planet. It's like a life form that I mean belongs to another planet, and then probably in another planet it's kind of like I mean its unique properties make more sense than in Earth. Of course, this is all very speculative, and again, in scientific matters, I'm glad to get any kind of advice because I know my limitations. I'm not a biologist and I don't have background in biology. And if there is any kind of like a person in the audience that maybe I mean is like an expert in insects, I mean it will be very enlightening to actually to get any kind of comments, like scientific comments. And if you didn't watch this video, I really, I mean, recommend this microscopy insect created in the burning crucible because it's really interesting.